edition of the Queen's Grapevine. This is your host, Wallingford Lee. Tonight on the Queen's Grapevine, we want to talk about the 2016 presidential campaign that's coming up on us right now. As you know, we just had the 4th of July, and we're coming down to the wire right now, where America is going to decide who's going to be the president. There's a lot going on today, and there's a lot at stake right now in terms of who we're going to elect to be our next president. We had on the Democratic side Ms. Hillary Clinton, who is very well qualified, but obviously she has some issues that she has to deal with. She was thoroughly investigated by the FBI and was not charged of any criminal charges. That's a good thing, even though the Republicans are all up in arms about this. They are also up in arms about the situation with Benghazi, so it goes on and on. On the other hand, we have Donald Trump, a New Yorker, good businessman. Now he's running for president, and it's like an adventure. Every day there's something new with him. He shows absolutely no presidential capacity by the way how he carries himself and the way how he attacks everyone, giving everyone a name, which personally I don't think it's presidential, and personally I don't think it's the way to behave. But that's not important right now. We want to talk about jobs. We want to talk about the economy. We want to talk about what it is that each candidate bring to the table and what difference are they going to make to Americans. And more importantly, how they're going to handle the Middle East, how they're going to handle China, how they're going to handle all the things that's right out there that bother us as Americans, and how we're going to deal with it. It gives us a great deal of pleasure, of course, to have a special guest on our program today. We're talking about Mr. Anthony Andrews, who happens to be a Democratic district leader in the Queens area right here in New York. This is a gentleman that has a fantastic background, and again, as I mentioned, gives us a great deal of pleasure to have him as our guest, to sit down with him, to get a feel for what his thought process is about this campaign and all the things that have taken place leading up to when we're going to decide on who's going to be president. Anthony, welcome to our program.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lee. I'm honored to be here.
No, it's my pleasure, of course. We saw you in a couple of shows, and you were very well recommended to us, and we feel extremely comfortable having a guest of your impact that was extremely knowledgeable, because we're talking about a lot of sensitive things. Where do you see this new presidential campaign going?
Well, you know, it's very interesting. You know, we started out with a number of different candidates, and now we seem to be down to two major candidates. What I find particularly interesting, and for the viewers out there, is that people are making a decision about who they want to support. I mean, very clearly, people are becoming either a Trump supporter or a Hillary Clinton supporter. And the two sides are not necessarily agreeing on much, let's just say, right? Now, there's some things that they both can agree on, right? A hike in federal minimum wage, I mean, they both agree on that, although, you know, they may disagree on how to go about doing that. I mean, how to go about getting persuade Congress to go for that, the U.S. Senate. But I mean, there are very few things the candidates are agreeing upon, which makes for a very, very interesting race, because people are lining up either on one side or the other. Now, it seems that from public opinion, it seems that neither candidate is extremely popular for different reasons. However, it's very interesting because people are lining up either conservative, very conservative, or very liberal and progressive.
I happen to agree with you. One of the strangest things, it's the first campaign that I ever seen that it's looked like a seesaw. Both of them, just as you mentioned, are not very well, I won't say love-like, because of their background and because of the different issues that they have. We know for a fact that Hillary Clinton, obviously, I think she's very well qualified.
Yes.
But she has a couple of issues that she has to deal with. This nation have made a big deal about the Benghazi situation, the way how she handled it, and also the email situation where supposedly some of the very sensitive materials that came to our email went to our personal email. We found out just now that the FBI completed their investigation and they found her innocent.
That's correct.
On the other hand, you have Mr. Trump, who is very bombastic.
Yes.
I am not quite sure he understands the issues because again, he comes up with a lot of buzzwords, but I have not seen him detail things about the economy, Social Security, foreign affairs. What is your opinion about the Republican candidate?
Well, I think Trump handles everything just the way he did with his reality TV show. It's all reality TV for him. Unfortunately, the reality can be far scarier for us if he wins the presidential election, I think. I mean, here's a guy who has made it very clear. Listen, forget about the fact that we're a country of immigrants. We don't necessarily want immigrants here, right? And immigrants are going to take the jobs from real Americans, right? Well, who are the real Americans, right? This country was founded upon immigrants. People came over across from the Mayflower. People came over through Ellis Island, right? My grandparents on my father's side came over on, a boat from Ellis Island, from Jamaica, right? My parents who were brought here as African slaves, my mother African American. So our country was founded upon the fact that everybody who has come here has been an immigrant, except for the indigenous peoples, right?
Those
Native
are true
Americans,
Americans.
right?
Those are true Americans.
Those are the only true Americans. But I think what he has done is he's used the fact that this is an issue that is very divisive to be able to get people to strongly side with him. Those people who are afraid of losing their jobs. Those people who are afraid of losing the opportunity for affordable housing because it may go to other people, the newer immigrants. He's very divisive, and I think he's using this to be able to divide the country. And I don't think that's the way we need to go. I think now more than ever, this country needs to be united. And I think that Trump is such a divisive character that he is leading people down a primrose path. And I don't think that that's going to be good for this country, Mr. Lee.
Do you think his behavior will eventually catch up with him?
I think so. I think after we finish with the presidential, or I think after we finish the presidential election, I think Hillary will be the president. But I think after we finish with the conventions, the Republican presidential convention, the Democratic presidential convention, I think after we finish with these conventions, I think people will have an opportunity now to compare the candidates side by side, and not just in their political parties, with their political party debates. I think you'll get a chance to see both of the candidates against each other, side by side. And I think when people get a chance to understand what a reasonable candidate may present in terms of reasonable options for the direction of this country, as opposed to somebody who is really bombastic, as you say, who is interested more in sound bites than actual policy improvement, I think people will then begin to see, hey, maybe this guy doesn't have as much substance as he does style.
I think we're really happy with the Republicans. The fact that Trump was saying a lot of things that they wanted to say, but they didn't have I would say, the strength to say personally, so they went along with him. So now that he's their primary candidate, they are scared to death, and they don't know how to deal with it. I mean, when he jumped and said that he wants absolutely no Muslims in the country, when he jumps and talk about that he's going to build a wall and that Mexico is going to pay for it, and that all Mexico are criminals and rapists. I wonder how serious he is, and whether the people from the Republican Party has confronted him about these issues.
Yeah, I think some of them have, and some of them have talked, very publicly about the fact that they don't want this guy to be their standard bearer, right? This guy's not the guy that they want to be the standard bearer for the Republican Party. As conservative as many of these Republicans are, the Republican leadership, they know that this guy is really out there with some of the things he says. But yet, people in the American public, a lot of people have gravitated towards some of the things he said. He struck chords, divisive chords, but he struck a chord with a number of Americans, unfortunately. But they're afraid, as you said, Mr. Lee, what do we do with this guy now? He's already stated, if I don't get the Republican nomination, there's going to be a problem at the convention. There may be violence. How do you have a candidate who has talked about violence from within at the convention? We've had protests outside of conventions, right? Sure. This guy has threatened violence from within. He said, my supporters will be very angry, and my supporters, he says, are going to be so angry that there may be violent protests within the convention halls if I don't get the nomination. How does that work? So I think they are very scared of this guy. And I think for all those people out there who are Republicans, I think it's important for them to understand this is not the guy you want leading our country. Forget about whether you're a Democrat or Republican. Think about it as an American. As an American, do you want somebody who threatens violence if he doesn't get his way?
You bring up quite a few interesting points, because recently our President Obama was out in Europe, and the European, the France, English, and German questioned Mr. Trump behavior. And they wanted to know from our president, was he serious about the things that he's saying off cuff and stuff like that? So this is a little bit deeper than just our nation, because most of his sound bites, most of his stuff goes out through the internet, through television and stuff like that. And they're wondering whether he has a chance to win one, and whether they can take him serious. So that's just, these are certain things that America should be concerned about, don't you think?
Oh, I agree. I mean, he said, you know, in terms of interrogation, he's talked about, Mr. Lee, the fact that he believes that whatever we need to do, if we have to torture people to get information out of them, we'll do that. Waterboarding, forget about that. He says ISIS has done far worse than waterboarding to people, right? So why shouldn't we waterboard, this guy says? Why shouldn't we torture people if we want information? Is that the type of president we want? I mean, so of course people from other countries, the leaders from other countries are concerned about this, and they should be, because if there's somebody who's suspected of being a spy and he gets caught on American soil, what's going to happen to them? No matter whether they've been involved with spying or not, Trump has advocated doing whatever he can, whatever he has to, whatever the American government he believes needs to make sure that we interrogate these people, and we interrogate them, and if we have to do it with violence, then we do it with violence. If I'm a world leader, I'm concerned about the people I have on American soil, whether they're American citizens or not now. Are we going to go back to the Japanese internment days?
I should hope not. When we get back on the Queen's Grapevine, we're going to continue talking about this tremendous campaign that's taken place between Hillary and Mr. Trump. And I must confess to you, in all my years of short life that I've never seen a presidential campaign like this. I've never seen the behavior that Mr. Trump have exhibited. I know he's a great businessman. I know he has made a lot of money, but I must confess to you that I think those Republicans that are conscious and have a mind gotta be worried. We'll be right back on the Queen's Grapevine.
The people he's trying to convince to vote for him now are the same people he's been exploiting for years. Working people, small business people, trying to support their families. And you know, this seems to be his one move. He makes over-the-top promises and says if people trust him, put their faith in him, he'll deliver for them. He'll make them wildly successful. Then everything falls apart, people get hurt, and Donald gets paid. Remember that the next time you see him on TV talking about how America will win big if we elect him president. Those promises he's making at his rallies, they're the same promises he made to his customers at Trump University. Now they're suing him for fraud. They're the same promises he made about another scheme called Trump Institute. The New York Times reports that the lessons it sold for thousands of dollars apiece were plagiarized from somebody else. They're the same promises he made to his customers at Trump condos in Baja California. You should hear these people's stories. They handed over their savings, then their calls stopped getting answered. The condos were never built, and they never got their money back.
And we're back here in the Queen's Grapevine with my special guest, Mr. Anthony Andrews. We're talking about the campaign that Mr. Trump is running, and also the one that Mrs. Clinton is running. And we're talking in terms of who's more qualified, who's dealing with the issues that are facing our nation, because there's so many issues facing our nation. A program like this, I think it's interesting because we don't have commercial interruptions, so we get the opportunity to deal with issues which I don't think the big, large station does. And our guests that are in the community, they feel the vibe, and they are with the people, both sides. Some are Republicans, some are Democrat. So what we try to do is to fill that need, to hear what's going on in the community and what their thought process about what's taking place and how involved the community is, and more importantly, How do they feel about each presentation that the candidacies are giving to us? Are they dealing with the issues? Are they dealing with a certain amount of poverty that exists in America? Are they dealing with the wage increase that we're supposed to deal with? Are they dealing with the immigration issues that we're facing, with the amount of illegal immigrants that are here? Some are talking about deporting them in a crazy manner. How do you do that when most of them do have children here? So there are sensitive issues that we want to talk about, that we think that is extremely important. And that's the purpose of this program, to get this out to the public, because your vote is extremely important. This is your opportunity right now, as an American, to choose the person that you think is more qualified to run this nation, not on emotion, but more on reality. What do they bring at the table, all right, to make a difference to this beautiful and great nation? There are those who are walking around saying that they're going to make America beautiful. America is beautiful, but we need to deal with issues that are facing us as a nation. What are some of the most important issues you think that is facing us in this campaign right now?
Well, I think there are key issues. Obviously, we're talking about a federal minimum wage. It's key. The Obamacare plan, it's got to continue. We've got to look at making sure that Americans can work. We've got to make sure that there's affordable health care. We've got to make sure that the country is safe. Forget about our borders being secure, right? Let's make sure that we have somebody in charge. The person in charge is somebody to relate and that can relate with other countries and other heads of state, somebody who is respected. Somebody like Hillary Clinton, who has served as Secretary of State and served with distinction. She certainly made some errors with the emails, of course, obviously. But she's a person who is probably the most experienced candidate in this field, and has been from the very beginning. I mean, she served as a U.S. Senator, she served as Secretary of State, and in addition to that, she served as the right hand to the President of the United States. I mean, she was his wife. I mean, anybody who's married understands that the man who is great has an even greater woman behind him.
No question about it.
President Clinton was a very good president, put a lot of good reforms forth. I think Hillary Clinton is the most qualified candidate in this race, and obviously more qualified than the guy who ran Trump University.
Let's talk a little bit. I am baffled by the fact that the Republicans had about 17 guys on board running, that a guy like a Jeff Bush was not qualified. The guy from Florida, supposedly he was not qualified. How did he get that far? What buttons did he touch? Is this presentation so solid? Is this presentation so good?
No, but he's really taken great pains, actually, to make sure that he's hit the right chords. He struck the right chords with the Christian right. I mean, the Bible Belt. He talked about very, very conservative things. I mean, so no, I'm not for abortion. No freedom of abortion. No, we should not have abortion rights for women. No, that we should make sure that everybody understands that I'm a pro-life candidate. So obviously that's going to strike a chord with the Christian right. You talk about people losing their jobs to the new immigrants. I mean, a young black man in my building in South Jamaica, he came to me and I was out getting petition signatures for Hillary, and he said, I'm going to vote for Trump. I said, wait a second. I said, you see the way this guy's talking about minorities and immigrants? You're going to vote for him? He says, yes. But that guy's going to stop these immigrants from coming in here and taking my job.
Wow, wow. Interesting. How qualified you think he is right now to be the president of this nation?
I don't think he's qualified at all. I think the guy's qualified to run a business. He can't even run a college, right? He's got problems with the college this guy was running. So I don't think this guy's qualified at all. I think this guy's qualified to run a business. He's a good businessman. He may be a great producer of a reality show, or he may be a hire great producer of reality shows. But to be the president of the United States, forget about all the bombast. What policy is he really talking about that's going to impact Americans? Not policy that he's against. What's the creation of policy that he stands for? I don't think he stands for creation of policy. I think he stands for discord, divisiveness, and I think he stands for whatever he thinks he believes people want to hear. And that's not the president that I want, Charles.
If you look at Hillary, hello, Thank you. Isn't it a shame? Look at this. Thousands of people are pouring in, and we have to get rid of one person. He's wasting our time. $19 trillion. See, they've got strategy. One there, one here, one there, three different places. So far, we're really at 2 people, but I think it might be 3. These are not people. Just remember that. Oh, here's another one. Here's another one. Look at this guy. Get him out.
Clearly, based on the things that you just said, I don't believe that's what we want running the nation. But there are those in the Republican Party who does have a few points. They claim that Mrs. Clinton has a lot of flaws, just like Donald does. So if we compare them, the flaws that each one of them have, who do you think will make a better presidential person?
Well, I think clearly Hillary Clinton, and the reason for that is that she's by far the most experienced candidate in the field. Whether you're talking about in the Democratic Party, she has proven to be the most experienced candidate, the most solid campaigner, and I like some of the ideas that Bernie Sanders brought to the table. They're part of the platform of the Democratic Convention right now. But Hillary is the person that we expect to be able to carry forth with these issues and to be able to bring these issues to the American public and to get support for these issues by the American people, right? So I think that Donald Trump is not qualified at all to be president of the United States. I don't think he is by any stretch of the imagination. I think that Donald Trump is a walking soundbite and that he appeals to some people because of his bombastic ways, because of his vitriol. But Hillary is not about that. She's more substance than style. And I think it's clear that she is a candidate who has brought forth issues that need to be debated, talked about, discussed. You talk about her flaws. Well, people talk about Obamacare and say Obamacare is not perfect. I mean, there's so many issues with Obamacare. But 16 million Americans have benefited from Obamacare. Is it perfect? No. Is Hillary Clinton perfect? No. But she's far better than the option.
Okay, let's get to the bottom of this, all right? We talked a lot about Donald Trump. Let's talk about some of the things that some of Americans question, and also the Republican. Can Hillary Clinton be trusted?
Oh, certainly. We never had this issue when she was Secretary of State. We never had the issue when she was the U.S. Senator. Again, has she made some errors? Yes, but here's the part that I want everybody to understand. She's grown from being in these positions. Although she's made errors, so haven't we all? No, she's not perfect, but the experience of making mistakes has made her a better candidate for president. You can't be successful without learning how to fail first.
But the Republican insists that her mistakes are criminal. When we talked about the email, even though she was found innocent. Let's go into the email a little bit.
Okay.
Has this ever happened to any other person that was in the United States government where they use their personal emails in some occasions, like she has?
Well, no. No, it hasn't. Unfortunately, there was a situation that occurred on a number of occasions, not just with her staff people. And unfortunately, you need people around you to make sure that you are not making errors when sometimes you may not be aware that you're making them. And, I would like to think that maybe there are people that were around Hillary that certainly could have said to her, this is an error. You probably shouldn't use your personal email. But that being said, there's nothing criminal. There's nothing criminal about what she did. We didn't have this issue 20 years ago, right? Because we didn't have emails that were flying around, right?
We didn't have internet?
We didn't have internet, right? So this is all new. To the American public, it seems like, okay, so this is something that would seem so obvious. But for people like yourself and me, Mr. Lee, and Hillary Clinton, we didn't grow up in the internet age, right?
No, we did not.
This is something, all of the social media, the emails, everything else, this has been around over the last decade into the last 2 decades. So we're learning about what should and shouldn't be done. If anything, this has made other people aware of what you shouldn't do and the security risks that are involved if you use your personal email. But I don't think because she's the first person that made the error that she should be hung for it. And I think that's what the FBI concluded.
What do you say to those Americans who said that her husband, Bill Clinton, was in Arizona recently, and he visited this young lady that the FBI report to? Where do we stand on that? How does that look to you?
Listen, it's clear that there was a relationship.
Lynch.
Right. It was clear that the Clintons have had a relationship with Mrs. Lynch over the years. But that being said, there's a relationship. That's a friendship that goes back years. There was nothing untoward about the fact that President Clinton was meeting with a friend. He met with a friend. They had lunch. They talked. Why would we think that the President of the United States, I should say the former President of the United States, President Bill Clinton, would be there trying to influence his friend? If anything, we speak about this man as a man of character in terms of being principled in dealing with the government. He has his flaws just as anybody else. But I've never heard anybody question him about something like this before. Why is it the Democratic candidate is being questioned about this? I don't think there's a reason to question him about it. He's entertaining a friend. They're having lunch, dinner, drinks, whatever. This is a friend. This is not somebody he's trying to influence as an official of the government.
Okay. On that note, Mr. Andrew, I want to take the opportunity on behalf of the family of Queen's Grapevine to thank you so much for being our special guest and for giving us the opportunity to share your thought process about the upcoming election. We don't have words to thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lee. I appreciate you having me, and I look forward to being on the show again one day, maybe.
You certainly will. And this is Wallingford Lee saying to you, good night for the Queen's Grapevine, and hoping that this program has been informative to you, because we talk on both sides of the candidates. We talked about some of the flaws that they have and some of the things that they bring to the table. So again, we hope that you get out there and vote. It's your right as an American, and let your vote count. Good night.